Hey guys, we're on our fourth day of CMAS review and we are going to be talking about rates and proportions today. So let's get started with our investigation. We have a candy store's sales for December and January in the table. We want to know what percent did the total sales increase from December to January, and we're going to round our answer to the nearest tenth of a percent. So I underlined a couple keywords. I know we're trying to find a percent, and I know we need the total sales. If I look over at my table, I see like individual candies, chocolate, gum, lollipop, sour, but I don't see the total. So I need to first find the total for each. I do that just by adding all of these. So 300, 400, 500, 600, 1100. And for January, we've got 500, 600, 750, and then we'll have 1450. So I've got my totals. Now I can either think about percent equations or proportions that we did back in Unit 5. I'm going to actually do a proportion for this one. So if I think back, I know that percents are all out of 100. Since I don't know my percent, I'm going to put x over 100. And then we are going to have our modified amount on top and our original amount on bottom. If you're ever unsure, the 100 always represents your original, so the starting amount's always going to be on the bottom. So the starting amount was 1100. We went up to 1450. Okay, now I have my proportion, so I'm going to cross multiply and divide. I can use a calculator for this, so 1450 times 100, and then I'm going to divide that by 1100, which let me grab my calculator. You guys can use the calculator on your computers just fine. So 1450 times 100 divided by 1,100. And I've got 131.818181, etc. Now, a couple things. If I think back to my proportion, we said percents are always out of 100. But since I only want to know just the increase, I'm going to take out a 100. Just so I can see only the increase. And now I've got 31.81, and again that repeats 81, 81, 81, 81. So now looking at my question, I know I need to round my answer to the nearest tenth of a percent. So I'm going to say 31.8%, and it is an increase. I know it's an increase because from December to January, our amount went up. Awesome. All right, next one. In Greeley, where I am from, the sales tax rate is 7%. If we think back to, again, Unit 5, taxes are an increase to our price. In Evans, the town neighboring Greeley, the sales tax, again, increase, is 6.4%. This whitehead, me, buys some leggings that are $55. If this is their cost to start, this is my original. I want to know how much more will she pay in Greeley than in Evans. So I've got a lot of information in this question. I'm going to start by just thinking about what it's asking and making a plan. If I'm going to need to find how much more, I need to find the two amounts. So we need to find Greeley cost. We need to find Evans cost. And then if I'm going to decide again how much more, that tells me to subtract the two. And then this will be my answer. So let's start with Greeley cost. Since we did proportion for the last one, let's do an equation for this one. So I know my original amount, and I know my percent. Anytime I'm going to write an equation, it's going to be the decimal version of your percent multiplied by your original is going to give you your modified amount. So I have the original, I have my percent. Now I know that sales tax is an increase, so instead of just 7%, I'm going to say 100%. Plus 7% gives me 107%. And then if I make that a decimal, I can imagine here's a decimal, swoop it twice, and I have 1.07 times my original amount, which is this 55. And that's going to give me, again, you can use your calculator, 1.07 times 55 is $58.85, and that's for Greeley. Got to do the same thing for Evans. So again, my tax is 6.4, so I'm going to take 100.0. I'm going to add 6.4. You guys hopefully saw I had to add a decimal here. 106.4. Swoop your decimal over to make this percent into 1.064. Still multiplying my original price, and I get $58.52. So following my plan, my last step, this is for Evans, is I'm going to do the Greeley price minus the Evans price, and it looks like it's 33 cents, or we can say dollars, 0.33 more in Greeley. Right on. All right, next one. We've got Miss Taylor is going to make some granola bars for an upcoming hiking trip. Her recipe calls for a cup of granola. That's kind of sneaky, but that's the whole number. 1, a cup of granola, and a cup of peanut butter. Actually, guys, I think there's some numbers missing right there. 1 second. Sometimes video doesn't copy over properly. I was right. It's actually 3/4 a cup of granola and 1/8 a cup of peanut butter. There we go. But she accidentally put 2 whole cups of granola into the mix. How much peanut butter should she have to make sure she sticks to the recipe? So our plan here is we're going to do a proportion. We're doing a proportion because I see that I have a ratio given. The ratio I have is granola to peanut butter in her recipe. But then I have something changing it. Anytime I see that, I know I'm going to have a proportion. My proportion is just going to compare granola and peanut butter. So let's go ahead and set that up. Again, I'm given 3/4 granola and 1/8 peanut butter. And then the mistake she makes is she does 2 whole cups, so whole number 2, of granola. So I'm going to find granola and line up 2. And X. Now, just like above, I'm going to cross multiply. I think this is easier to keep it fractions. So I want you guys to do this on your own as fractions. So we're going to do 2 times 1/8. Yesterday we talked about whole number 2 becomes 2/1. Now I can multiply straight across. 2 times 1, 1 times 8. And I can simplify this by 2 to give me 1/4. Next up, I have to divide. So I'm going to do 1/4 divided by my last number, 3/4. Again, we talked about this yesterday with copy dot flip. Multiply across, 1 times 4, 4 times 3. And simplify, I can divide these both by 4. And I get 1/3 cups peanut butter. Let's just double check that that makes sense. If we look at our original recipe, 3/4 compared to 1/8, the granola is a lot more than the peanut butter. So let's make sure that worked out my problem. I ended up with 1/3 peanut butter and 2 granola. Yep, granola is still a lot more. We're good. All right, you guys, so we're going to end this video out with a stop and jot. In our examples, we saw 2 ways to solve problems. We have proportions and equations. Our proportion always looked like percent over 100 equals the modified amount over the original amount. And our equation always looks like the percent as a decimal times the original amount equals our modified. And again, this is for percents. Proportions are a little bit different in our rates problems, but for percents, we can do 2 different types of ways. So my question for you is just, which one do you like better for percent problems? Is it easier for you to think about a proportion, or is it easier to think about the equation? Go ahead and start writing. Whichever one you prefer is fine. You can do either one for a percent problem. Once you're done writing, you can continue with the rest of your packet. Good luck. Have a good day.